Hi, everyone. John Espirian's my guest. And
Hey, Ken. Yeah, you got your book. Thank you for having me here.
no problem at all. This is such an amazing thing. And I love the fact when I look at your profile, the relentlessly helpful tag is such a wonderful tag for sure.
Oh, thank you.
And, John and I are different types of people in what we do here, first of all, on the platform. I'd be curious right off the bat, if people want to just let me know where they're coming in from, that would be really great. So we can have a frame of reference for sure, because I think we're going to talk about LinkedIn experiments. John's a mad scientist. I'm just kind of the apprentice here. So I think
I should have worn my lab coat and my goggles, maybe.
Or maybe a Harry Potter thing. I don't even know. But I think it's just it's so cool. I take a lot of my leads from you, John, because a lot of the things that I test mainly for now are pretty much about the types of posts that I do, when I run the posts. How did you actually get started so much in wanting to do these experiments? I mean, in the first place.
I come from a software and hardware testing background, and I worked in user acceptance testing and quality assurance for like 10 years before I eventually went independent and decided to become a content writer. And because I can't really talk about most of my content writing projects, non-disclosure agreements and stuff, I try to build my presence by explaining how LinkedIn works. And given that I've got this kind of testing background, it just made sense to say, this is a huge place with loads of settings, and there's an algorithm or algorithms driving it all. Why don't I try to understand how this works and then showcase my powers of explanation by sharing what I learn? And slowly over the years, that's become me being that guy wearing the lab coat and saying, okay, I'm going to go and do a month-long experiment on whatever it happens to be, and reporting my results. And that kind of content, that new research, people love that. So obviously I'm going to do more of what works, and that's what I'm now becoming known for. It's a good way of differentiating myself.
Yeah, I know. I mean, for me, what I tried, I mean, the first thing I did is I decided to see when I posted, the types of posts I did. And not so much a number of views, because the views keeps changing, that changes, but it's just understanding what seems to resonate. And I see that polls seem to get a lot of views. Now, defining what a view is and defining what it is in terms of content, it just seems to me that that's one of the things which is recent. But also, I find the types of polls that you do or the types of content on the weekend is different than during the week. Take a little more of myself and be a little more personal on the weekends because it's a different audience. So are those some of the things that you've tried to do too, or is it more about the type of content that you put, let's say text versus something else?
Well, okay, so there's a few answers here. So in terms of the timing of my content, I've tried to spread things out and then tracked what has worked best just in timing. And for me, I found that weekend posts perform by far better than everything on the weekday. And I've concluded that that's probably down to just a lack of eyeballs around. There's a lack of competition for attention on the weekend. And so more people are likely to engage with my stuff then. So that's one part of things. I also track what type of posts have been working well for me. And when I first got into LinkedIn, sort of 2017, there was a lot of talk then that text-only content would perform well, and I found that to be true. I was just looking at my stats earlier, and for the last 750 to 800 posts that I've done in the time that I've been measuring, I found that text-only posts perform almost twice as well as image posts in terms of view counts. And that's a huge difference. But for me, my best performing type of content is document posts, which are the PDFs or PowerPoints or Word documents that you can upload direct into a LinkedIn post. They take a bit longer to create, but that kind of content performs really well for me. And on polls, you just mentioned those. Honestly, I've only ever done, I think, 3 polls. I've just found that my feed is full of them, and very often people don't seem to know how to construct a question or an answer set, and that really kind of puts me off. But I do accept that their view stats, their visibility
Mhm.
is really, really high. So if you want to quickly get visibility on your content, then doing more polls is an effective method. But please, if you do it, ask a meaningful question. I don't want to see another poll that says, what's your favorite ice cream flavor? It's just, I've had enough of those now.
There aren't chocolate or milk chocolate or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I want to just do some call outs to people here. Welcome, Drew from New Jersey. Carol as well. I have a lot of my Jersey folks here. I have a LinkedIn user here from Michigan. I wonder if it's Brenda. We'll find out.
Okay.
Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Hey, Juana.
I don't know Arifa. I don't know if you do or not.
I do. We've spoken, yes.
I got Fran Byers here.
Nice.
Juanita. And of course, Jeff Young.
Oh, our friend.
Our friend out in Ohio, Cynthia. I'm amazed at how many people are in. And I have to do a little shout out to Paula Scott. Paula Scott, her brother and I were in school together, and this is Paula Margolis, married Paula Scott.
Okay.
Really cool that
Okay.
she know me here. So I don't know if you know Lois Cliff or not.
I do. She's my girlfriend. Yeah, I'd say I know her pretty well.
Okay. I'm glad she. That's good to know, actually. So I think one of the things which is really great is understanding that you don't have to be someone that posts all the time, every day, to get a message out there.
No.
And part of posting is, I think, also engaging other people's posts. I think that's probably just important.
Definitely. I think my advice on this is that there is no ideal posting schedule, only the posting cadence that you can sustain. If you can post every day and you can actually stick to that, go nuts. If you can only manage to do 2 posts a week, that's all you can do, but you know you can commit to that, do that instead. It's finding the right balance for you and then sticking to it. It's not turning up 5 times one week and then having 3 weeks off and then coming back twice. That to me is a bit, that's not consistency. So getting that cadence right is really essential, and then understanding what you want to be known for, so that you show up with the same shape. Is what I talk about in Content DNA. And you said, commenting on other people's posts or supporting other people's posts. That is the single best way of growing a following, even if you've got 0 followers right now. If I turn up on someone else's post, that person has a big engaged following, they've said something that is relevant to my industry, and I come in there with like 2 or 3 paragraphs of well-researched, supportive, interesting, relevant content that supports the post, all of the people who are looking at that post will see that comment and say, wow, who's this guy? Where's he come from? Whereas if I was posting that same valuable content on my own feed with 0 followers, who's going to see that? No one. So actually, the smart thing to do, as well as the nice thing to do, is to go out and look for relevant conversations. You support other people's success and you build your brand credibility through that means. And I recommend at least commenting at least 5 times, possibly even 10 times as much as you post. So if you've committed to doing 2 posts a week, great. I want to see 10, 20 comments on other people's stuff. So that is your workload if you're going to be showing up meaningfully on LinkedIn.
I agree. I think also a lot of people just do the likes or do like great post.
Yeah.
That's such a throwaway thing. That's like a Facebook thing. You want to have a relevant conversation as to what you're actually going to put there. I mean, I've gotten some of my best connections, honestly, from following up from people that we both comment on the same post because we have that frame of reference.
Yeah. Yeah, so, no doubt. I mean, people often, when they invite me to connect, will say, oh, I saw you on so-and-so's post. Well, you're not going to get comments like that if all you're doing is hitting like or writing great post. And writing great post is just like pressing the like button. It doesn't add any value whatsoever. And often it's the sign that there might be some kind of, maybe slightly dodgy engagement pod activity going on. If you see loads of comments on the same post, they're all saying, so insightful, great post, maybe there's a pod arrangement where people have clubbed together to try and game the algorithm, and of course that is against the user agreement. So stay away from that. Don't associate yourself with low value comments. You should either react to something or you should put a proper comment down. And I would always say that a proper comment is a lot more valuable than just a reaction. So could go for the latter.
So what's your favorite experiment recently? You've done a lot of different experiments. Is there one that you really, that stands out to you or something?
Well, I mean, the one that's top of mind is the one I just posted about today, because some people are talking again about whether links in posts, if you link to an external blog post or an article, is that going to damage the reach of your, damage your visibility of your post? Now, I tested this last year and I found there that actually LinkedIn's algorithm had changed such that you could include a post without any negative effects. I tested it again for all of my posts from the start of 2021 to now. And I found actually there was not a significant difference between posts that did contain a link versus posts that didn't. I did see a mild drop for video posts that include a link. So maybe there's some kind of correlation there. But for text, image, and document posts that contain a link, there was just no difference at all. So basically, I'm saying that you're free to go ahead with including links, but please include them only when they're really relevant to the discussion. Don't just pepper them in every post, because that looks spammy and people probably won't be clicking your links then.
I agree. I would love to get some comments or some questions from people here in the chat, because John and I could talk all day, but we want to make sure also that this is engaging for you. I know one of the things that a lot of us talk about is creator mode versus non-creator mode, if you will, and benefits or not. I kind of have a love-hate relationship with it. I don't know about you. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about that.
Well, I saw a really interesting comment from someone who works for LinkedIn who kind of admitted that in the early days of creator mode, it wasn't quite set up to do what it was intended to do, but please don't turn it off just yet, because those bugs have been ironed out. And that made me think, oh wow, okay, there's something going on there. Because when I turned it on, so we're talking about May, I did start to see a more significant drop in view count than was already happening to me, because actually I've seen a general decline in view counts since the start of 2020. I don't know if that's pandemic related, but that seemed to steepen. There was a bigger drop since I turned creator mode on. And this might be complete coincidence, but there was a time a couple of weeks ago, I think actually 2 weeks ago today, where everyone's creator mode was just turned off for 1 or 2 days. Really weird. And we didn't do it. We didn't consciously do it. And then magically it turned itself back on. And in that period, I had my 2 best posts for a while, and actually my first 10,000 plus view post for some time. And that's when creator mode was off. So I don't know whether there is some kind of drag factor associated with having that turned on, but what I need to do is a proper test of this. So what I'll do is probably in September turn creator mode off for the whole month, and then compare that month's data with the past, what will be 3 or 4 or 3 months previous where creator mode was on, to see, is there a significant difference between the two? Because if there is, I'll stay with creator mode turned off. It doesn't really seem to be benefiting me a whole lot. And as a copywriter, one of the most important things of your profile, I think, is what's in your about statement. And of course, in creator mode, that is pushed down the profile and therefore is less prominent. And I'd rather make that more prominent. So maybe turning creator mode off will get me a little bit more interest in my profile, because people will be more likely to see what's in my about statement, which really sells what my service is all about. So we'll see. I'll test that next month and I'll report back my results.
That's great. So Annette is actually going to be on my event tomorrow. She wanted to know, what's a good cover story strategy? Do you have any thoughts about that?
Well, certainly have one, because every time I review a LinkedIn profile, it's the first thing I look for is that orange ring that's around the profile photo. And if I see it, I'm going to click it, because that gives me insight into the humanity of the person that I'm going to be dealing with there. So, cover stories should be recorded in portrait mode, because that's the way that they're displayed in LinkedIn, whether you're on desktop or on mobile. So record a cover story video on your mobile phone in portrait mode. If you can add captions to it, that helps with accessibility. There are numerous mobile workflows that will let you add text to your videos relatively easily, and you've got 30 seconds to play with. Although weirdly, some people still have only 20 seconds. I don't understand why, but most people have 30 seconds. So a 30-second video, portrait mode, you speaking to camera, add some captions, you're good to go. That humanizes your profile, and be clear about who you are, what you do, and give people a reason to start a conversation with you, because that's where all the value on LinkedIn comes, is starting a conversation. So if you can try and do that, that's your strategy right there.
Would you recommend switching the cover story from time to time, or do you think leaving it up for a while? Because things change. I wondered about that, because I'm thinking about switching my cover story just to see.
Yeah, I mean, you could experiment, couldn't you? Because if you're going to make the effort of creating one video, I suppose you could maybe create a few videos and just have them ready to go in your camera roll and say, okay, this week I'm going to try this one, next week I'm going to try that one. I don't recommend necessarily changing them on the fly, because if you're going to do the whole captions thing, it does take some time. So maybe batching that effort, if you haven't already done one, maybe try and sit down and make 2 or 3 in one go, because that's probably not much more effort than making the first one anyway. And then try that. So I'm thinking about changing mine sometime soon, because now I've got a music jingle made for me by Mark Deeks, and so I might put that at the end of my cover story and see how well that's received.
You don't want to sing that, do you?
I absolutely don't want to sing it now.
You have this wish list for LinkedIn too. What I'd love to see on LinkedIn is if there was some way they could figure out how many people are actually clicking on the cover story.
Yeah, that would be nice.
I mean, it'd be nice to know how many people compare, or how many people as part of it, just as a frame of reference, mobile or not. So Joey,
nice.
Joey has a question here. Joey, one of my contacts in New Jersey. What's your favorite feature of LinkedIn?
I think the features that you get in direct messages are really powerful. The fact that you can send people voice notes, you can send people native video messages, you can have group chats, you can invite people, through group chats, and now, as of today, it's my first experience with it. You can actually have a native video call inside LinkedIn without downloading any software, and I think that's a massive new feature. So I did a little video on that earlier, and so not everyone has got this. It's only just rolling out, but you can, instead of booking a Zoom call or a Teams call through LinkedIn's direct messages, you can say live video call through LinkedIn, and you can invite someone or schedule a meeting. And that's just fantastic. So if you're having a text chat and you can go, let's have a chat, let's have a face-to-face chat, no software installed, you can do it on desktop or mobile. Wow, what a powerful feature.
Definitely. So the other question that came up is your thoughts on hijacking a post and how to deal with it professionally. I mean, I believe it's so important when you do a post to give credit to where you got the post from, if it's someone else's content. But there's also the point when you're writing on a post and then you want to create your own post from it. And I don't know if there's a practice or what you would suggest.
If we're talking about adding a comment that would steer the discussion away from what the apparent intent of the original poster would be, I think the respectful thing to do is to start a new post, maybe credit the poster for their idea, and then you own the discussion, and you can go in whichever route you want. If you come along and do that hijacking on someone else's post, that's not being a good LinkedIn citizen. And I wouldn't blame the original poster if they were to take you to task for that, or even delete your comment, because they're thinking that's not why I put this post out, not to become someone else's show. So whenever you comment, be respectful of what the intent of the poster is and try and support that as much as possible. And if you're going to veer away, then start your own post. And in terms of taking inspiration in general from the post, always give credit where you can. I've seen and have been the victim of people just doing a straight copy and paste and presenting your information as theirs without any credit whatsoever. And that's terrible practice on any platform.
I mean, I want to go back to something you said before about, because this happened to me today. I got tagged on a post with a lot of other people, almost like a pod sort of thing. So what I did is I just took my tag off because I didn't want to be notified. And I think a lot of people think it's an idea. Let me let 50, 60 people in my network know so I can tag one right after the other. So I wonder, I mean, I don't know how many times you get tagged, but I mean, what would you do? I mean, do you actually go back to the person and when you take your tag off, let them know you've done it, or just kind of leave?
I haven't removed myself. I haven't untagged myself for a while now. I did used to do that, but I didn't find that it actually made any difference. And it kind of looks a little bit like a passive aggressive move. I think if you ignore the tag, if you don't respond to it, then actually that has more potential to perhaps affect the behavior of that user in the future, because the more people who don't respond to them, the less likely LinkedIn is to show their content to other people. And also you'd hope that people will get the message from the fact that, oh, I'm tagging this guy and he never responds, I won't bother next time. It's only if I really found something particularly offensive or inappropriate that I would go and DM them and say, oh, look, please don't do that. And that situation comes across very, very infrequently. I'm tagged about 5 times a day, sometimes 10 times a day in other people's posts. And I've no issue with that if I'm one of the few people tagged, if something's really highly relevant to me. But when I feel as though I'm being used for engagement purposes, or I'm part of a tag wall, as kind of what you're just saying, that's not cool. I wouldn't do that to someone else. And that I'll just remember that that's happened, but I won't necessarily do anything in the moment. I just won't respond.
No, there was a spam tag thing. There was a post, and there were 200 people of us on the post.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, the problem I had was not so much being tagged, but then every time someone commented or said something that I got notified, and then I turned off the notifications for it. It's just, you know, I think now, especially with people joining LinkedIn maybe for the first time, I think sometimes you need a refresher in some best practices, because people just don't know. At least that's my hope, is that they don't know.
Yeah, good point. I mean, it always helps to model what good practice is, and all of the people who really know how to use LinkedIn well, they just don't engage in that practice. But it's a good reminder for people. Don't tag people unless it's highly relevant to them. And if it is highly relevant to them, you will never have an excuse to tag 200 people, because it will never be that broad of a message that it could apply to all those people, I don't think. And also, I suppose another thing is, some people engage in what I would call maybe shadow tagging or dark tagging, which is they don't actually tag you in public, but what they do instead is they just DM you and say, hey, I've just done this post. It would be great if I could get your comment on this. And that puts you in a socially awkward position, because what do? Do you ignore a direct message? And you kind of feel compelled that you've got to go and take part in it. And so effectively, they have tagged you. They've just done it behind the scenes, so it doesn't look as though they're begging you for engagement. So don't do that as well. You know, contact people with your content only if it's really, really relevant to them. Otherwise, just respect their time. And if they're going to find you organically and engage, great, let them do that. But don't push it in their face.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. Is there a way to unfollow a conversation? Sometimes I comment in a post and it takes a different direction. But I get being notified. I turn off the notifications on the post, I think, in my feed. I don't know if that's the best way to do it or not.
Yeah, you can, and you can do it through through notifications themselves. You know, it'll come up saying, you know, Ken commented on so and so post. You can hit the 3 dots and say, okay, you know, stop telling me about you know, things like this. So you can do that. I mean, to be honest, I've got those turned off at the settings level in LinkedIn, because otherwise my notifications would just be even more busy than they are. So for that reason, I like it when, if there is genuinely an ongoing conversation going on, I would rather be tagged if people really want to try to get my attention. However, that reminds me of another thing, is that if you unfollow the person as opposed to just the conversation, if you've unfollowed a person and then they tag you, you will not get a notification about that. So that puts you in a bit of jeopardy there, because if you're on, imagine you're on someone else's post and the person that you've unfollowed tags you, you will never see that. You've got no chance of having that appear as a notification. So you need to be mindful of that, because I unfollow a lot of people because otherwise my feed would be just too busy. But it means that I can sometimes miss notifications like those in comments. And my way around it is just to make sure that I do a regular search on LinkedIn for all instances of my name in posts, so that even if someone has tagged me and I miss it because I've unfollowed them, I will still see that in my content search. And I've saved that search, so I can just press one button in Chrome and it will show me all instances of posts that include my name. Now that's easy for me because I've got an unusual name. If you've got a regular name, you're going to get a lot of noise in search results like that. But it might be something worth doing if it's the kind of thing that you're interested in, making sure that you never get missed. You know, you don't miss something that mentions you. You could create a search like that.
That's a really good idea. Actually, I'm always learning something.
Yeah, and a follow-up point to that is, because of the way LinkedIn searches work, you can define a search that says exclude this stuff, you know, using the minus symbol in the search. So if you can find like what that noise is that you're trying to get rid of and characterize it, you can say minus this stuff that leads to the noise, and that way your search becomes more tailored to the things that you want to see. So you need to do a bit of playing to make that work, but it's quite powerful, because it can mean that it sounds as though you're listening to everything. It's like, how did you see that? Well, okay, I was doing a clever search for my name, and that's how I saw it.
So Alexandra, I don't know. The algorithm is one of those things that no one really knows. If you don't respond to a tag, how do you think that affects the algorithm at all? Or
I think it does, because just logically speaking, you imagine that you tag 100 people in a post and 5 of them respond. What message is that sending to LinkedIn? That is saying that those other tags were not relevant. And if you've done something that is not relevant, why would the LinkedIn algorithm want to promote you as much next time? It shouldn't. So if you keep doing that, it stands to reason that you would be punished, right? And so the algorithm has to adjust. Whereas if you tag 100 people and they always respond, LinkedIn is going to go, well, this stuff must be really important to these people. Let's keep showing them this stuff. Let's show more people this stuff. It's just basic logic. So I would assume that the algorithm is built that way. It makes sense.
See, for me, I think the latest thing I've noticed with the algorithms, for the first 3 hours or so, I get a lot of engagement. Then it dies down, and then maybe I get some more in a day or so. And I mean, again, this is just my thoughts, and everyone is different. And again, this is just the constant experimentation that I think we all do.
It reminds me of so I did an experiment specifically on this a little while ago, where we've long thought that early engagement is important for accelerating the visibility of your content, right? So I thought, what would happen if I just deliberately did not respond to stuff and see what happened to my posts? Okay, so I did an experiment that lasted a whole month, and for the first 3 hours after I posted, I ignored the comments deliberately. I set a timer and said, I'm going to see the comments. I'm not going to do anything with them. And in that month, my view count dropped. I think it was 49% on my posts. So I still responded, but I didn't respond for at least 3 hours. And so it's like the algorithm was saying, hang on, people are saying stuff to you and you're ignoring them. That's not cool. And my view counts really went down a lot. And actually my overall comment rate went down by about a quarter. So what I'm saying is, if you're going to make the effort of creating a post, and admittedly, only 1, 2, 3% of people actually do that. If you're going to make that effort, also make the effort to reply to the people who are kind enough to give you part of their day with a comment. Don't just leave them hanging and just broadcast something. I say in the next book, I'm going to say this is about building the campfire and not being a lighthouse, right? You're not just broadcasting, you're trying to bring people in for a conversation. And so if you post something, make sure that you are around for a little bit afterwards so that you can engage those early people who are supporting you, and that can help to accelerate your visibility.
That's a good point. I know I actually block out time in my day now for like a half an hour of time. I'm going to go back and look at the post and respond to the post. And at that time, I may actually comment on other people's posts, because you're right. It feeds the algorithm. If you ask people to respond, and the same with a poll or anything else, people just want to be acknowledged that they're
absolutely.
It's the whole idea of a community. Yeah. So this question came up: are video calls in the InMail limited to first-degree connections now? Do you know?
Well, I don't know whether video calls are even possible through InMail yet, because this is such a brand new feature. So I don't know about that. But well, InMails and first-level connections, that doesn't really make any sense, because you would only send an InMail to someone you're not already connected with. But yeah, I think you will only be able to have a video call with a first-level connection. I'm going to see if I've got any InMails in my inbox that I can actually.
What I'm wondering about is, could this be part of an invitation connection request? Could you actually put something like that in? I don't know.
No, that there's no option for that at the moment. I mean, potentially there could be, but there's no option for that right now. I'm just scrolling through my DMs and seeing if I've actually got any InMails that I can kind of check this with. So I can see one of the InMails, and this is someone, so I'm definitely not connected with them, and the video camera with the plus button is just not there at all. So I can see it only for people I'm connected with. Also, if you have a group chat, the video button doesn't seem to appear. Maybe it will, because eventually you can invite people in perhaps, but right now it's a really rudimentary video system. You can't do chat while you're in the video, so you can't just talk to someone and say, hey, I'll send you my email address at the same time. You can't do clever virtual backgrounds like you can on Zoom, but all of this stuff is going to be coming, and so I think it's going to be really powerful. So it's well worth getting on board and giving it a whirl as soon as you get it.
Just before I forget, Brenda posts this all the time. This will be in the chat. She actually replies back.
Yes.
And we all have our ways about it.
Indeed. She talked about this at our LinkedIn Leaders League the last time. And so she uses it as a pitching spot. And I don't blame her. Someone has wasted her time. She's gonna go back and do her own thing. I applaud her for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you can share your knowledge, and sometimes I've had comments on people that have actually used the automation too, and they just don't realize how bad it is. It's like throwing something against the wall, hoping it sticks, and not caring if you're really annoying everyone else. So are there any things that you would like to see LinkedIn bring back that they've let go, like a find nearby or something like that? Any features that you really miss? Or
find nearby would be interesting once we all started going to conferences and stuff again. It's weird that they kind of retired that quite silently, didn't they? Yes. One thing that frustrated me is that they did actually test mobile invitations being coming up by default, so that if you click connect on mobile, it would prompt you to say, send a message to this person, which, as we know, it doesn't do that now. But they tested it, and then they still decided not to implement it. So I think that would be a really powerful thing to put it back in, because I receive so many invitations that have no message on them, and very often it's because people either they were a bit lazy, or they didn't even know that you could send an invitation on mobile. And I think there's no point connecting with someone unless you're going to try and have some kind of conversation with them. And you need to remember that when you do connect with someone, if you imagine jumping, a year in the future, if you want to go back and say, well, why did I connect with that person? I need to talk to them now. I can't remember because there's no kind of chat history. Don't do that. Give people a reason to connect with you, so you start off on the right foot. So always personalize your invitations if you can.
I would be just as happy if LinkedIn could tell me if the person was connecting via mobile or desktop, because if
Yeah.
I knew that there was no message and it was coming from mobile, I would probably be much more sympathetic than someone just sending it out by desktop. And it seems to me, I'm an IT person too, shouldn't be that difficult to do. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can already see in some views, can't we? We can see if we look at one of the pages, you can say how people found you, and it'll say, via homepage or via search. So why not beef that up as well and said, found you via homepage, connected with you via mobile, viewed your cover story, listened to your audio pronunciation, and clicked see more on your about page. I mean, wouldn't that be valuable? Because you go, okay, they already know quite a lot about me versus someone who hasn't done any of those things. They could just be playing a numbers game, and those are the people you don't necessarily want.
So have you ever heard from LinkedIn about any of your thoughts, any of your comments or anything?
Well, I came up with this fixed list a couple of years ago, and at the time, LinkedIn was saying making the right noises in public, and they said they were going to assign a team to it, and I'd have a project manager, and they'd keep me informed about everything, and they created a support ticket, but then actually it was all silently closed down, and I've never really had any feedback since then. So I've still kept that list as a demonstration that all this stuff still needs to be fixed. Although, to be fair, I mean, a lot of things have been fixed. But most stuff is still outstanding, and I still add to it from time to time. But that's my way of just showing that this is not a perfect platform, and we are trying to make it better, because it's in all of our interests to make it better. I mean, you love LinkedIn, I love LinkedIn.
Right.
I want it to be the best experience for me, but also for the people who might become my clients one day, so that they can enjoy using the place, so they don't say, this is rubbish, I'm going to go and use Instagram instead because it works. I want people to stick around, and so I'm trying to give LinkedIn some feedback on how they could make the place better.
I think to some extent we all want the best, of course. I think it's how you portray it. But I mean, even the whole issue with groups, most people that are just new to the platform don't necessarily realize the whole history so much, and that's probably better. I personally would love to see groups be part of an integration into their voice app, because it makes a lot of sense. Because how are you going to determine the different levels of connections like you have on Clubhouse? Everyone's on one network, but again, LinkedIn is not asking my opinion, but if they listen to this, here's the opinion for free.
Yeah. I mean, we know. Well, we've seen I think just one screenshot maybe of LinkedIn having beta tested a social audio room. How soon that's going to be before it comes to fruition, or whether it will, who knows? But it would be amazing if you could have a LinkedIn group that actually gives you reliable notifications that appears in your feed, and that lets you have private or partially public social audio chats. That would be fantastic. For people who've built their network here, that could be really, really powerful. But it looks as though one of the negatives about LinkedIn is that they always seem to drag their heels when it comes to technology. They'll wait for Facebook to do something, and then 18 months later, maybe they'll release something that isn't as good. And you think, well, you've had time to learn, and you can iron out mistakes, but in the end, it's never quite as good. So whether they'll do something that's as good as Clubhouse, who's to say? But I'd like to see groups improved. They have improved, I think, in the last year, but there's probably some way to go. Although, as we were talking about earlier, looks like some new group stuff is happening. I haven't quite got my head around exactly what all of that means, but changes seem to be afoot, and there's some gamification stuff that's going to happen, like badges for people who regularly post in groups and stuff like that.
I don't know. That goes back to the badges when you answer questions. LinkedIn Help. You got badges for that. You got stars for that, and people just answered just for the sake of getting a star. It has those ramifications. So Alexandra had this thing here: LinkedIn messaging search option for your messages.
Okay, well, I mean, there is a search in messaging. I don't find it's very, very good, though. I mean, even if I'm just trying to search the messages tab for a particular person that I've had a conversation with, I find it's much more effective to just use the main LinkedIn search to find that person and then hit message, and then I can see my message trail with them. But general keyword searching inside messages, it's not brilliant. And of course, If you then do rich media like videos or voice notes, that content is just inherently unsearchable. So all you can ever search is text. And so that's not great.
Think about it from the perspective you have Outlook and you have all these different folders on all these different platforms. LinkedIn, you do not have folders and messages.
No, correct. Yeah.
So it's just kind of like the old days of AOL or whatever. It's just one place. And that's, so LinkedIn has the bright idea to do that. We're going to be like, really? 20 years?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, they've got some very, very basic stuff like the archived folder, which I actually use a lot. So if there's something where there's no action on me, like I've done something or nothing needs a response, I'll put it in archived so that the only things in my inbox are things that I need to deal with. And that lightens the cognitive load a little bit. But yeah, something that would say clients or prospects or, you know, video conversations or something, that would certainly be helpful.
Even the idea, years ago, you used to be able to tag contacts way back when. You had different categories. I know that's gone. I'm not sure if it's on Net Sales Navigator or not, but LinkedIn has a tendency to take some of their technology or functionality and move it to the more expensive platforms, or things. And I get it that they're trying to sell. I don't.
Sure.
But I think the biggest challenge that I think we all have is just being on the one hand, we can be frustrated and vent and all that, but we all want this for the greater good. I mean, all of us
absolutely
nerds and the like. We just want a better product for everyone's sake.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm surprised that they haven't already done something to really beef up the analytics that they provide to paying members. You know, I'm sure lots of people who spend a lot of time on LinkedIn will use systems like Shield or Inlytics to kind of get a dashboard of what's really going on with their posts. Why should that be necessary? Because LinkedIn's got all of that data. Why doesn't it display it? Even if it's only for premium users or maybe Sales Navigator users, it should display all of that and make it easy for people to see what's working for them. I'm just surprised they haven't done that before now.
I mean, if LinkedIn really wanted to, they can almost take all the different functions and make them a la carte, and people could pick and choose what they wanted, possibly. I mean, again, that's kind of my wish.
Yeah, that would be quite the probably quite a technical challenge to do something like that. But I mean, it's not impossible, is it? But I think they could certainly be serving the people. I've seen a lot of people who are paying for premium thinking, what am I actually getting for this? Because, you know, not everyone uses LinkedIn Learning. You know, not everyone wants to send emails to cold contacts. So there's an assumption, I think, from some people saying, well, this person's content is doing really well because they've got a gold badge. But actually, that's not true at all. I mean, for the longest time, I was a free user. I've only upgraded to LinkedIn Premium in the last few months. Before then, my content was getting really good visibility and all of those view potential and comment potential and all of the direct messages you can have, all of that is totally free. So actually, for many people, I tell them, actually, you probably don't need to be paying for LinkedIn. Get the absolute maximum from the free version first before you think about upgrading, because there's a lot of good stuff that you can do without paying them a penny.
Absolutely. I think most people barely scratch the surface of what they can do with basic, and they just make an assumption. Is there anything, I mean, do you have any other events or anything else coming up that you wanted to share? I know you're on Clubhouse from time to time too.
I am. I'm doing, so I've only just literally just the other day, we did the second version of the LinkedIn Leaders League, which is now on YouTube. So that's where I get together with LinkedIn experts and we just generally talk about LinkedIn, and I publish that on YouTube. And I think I'm probably going to be moving that to LinkedIn Live, because now that I've paid for StreamYard, it probably makes sense that we do it there. But I've got an Antipodean version of that coming next month. So I'll be speaking to LinkedIn experts in Australia and New Zealand to do the same kind of chat. So that's coming up. But other than that, I mean, the main thing I'm trying to find time for is to work on the second book. So Content DNA has been doing really well over the last year, but I'm trying to give people some tips in the next book about how to be the most helpful person in your industry. So that's what Relentless is going to be about. And that's the methodology that really has helped me over the last few years really stand out, this idea of being relentlessly helpful and trying to be a source of knowledge, trying to be like the Wikipedia of my industry, so that people come to me for answers rather than anyone else. And that means that I don't need to sell. I can just kind of get business.
So where exactly is this thing on YouTube? Is there a link, or is it on your YouTube page, or is there?
Yeah, so the LinkedIn Leaders League, yes, that's on my YouTube channel. So if you search for John Espirian on YouTube, then you'll find that. So there's two parts to it. So the second one was done just a couple of days ago, and I'm doing another one next month, and then we'll see from there on in whether it's popular enough to keep going. But it's a nice kind of no agenda chat about LinkedIn. And I want to be speaking to experts from around the world. So, I'd be more than happy to host you on that one. And yeah, just bring your LinkedIn A game, and we'll just talk about whatever's moving and shaking. And it's a kind of fast release cycle. So whatever's happening right now, let's talk about it. Let's get it out into the world. So maybe it won't be that relevant in 6 months' time, but it's just a good way of adding some value to the audience and showcasing all of our skills and showing how much enthusiasm we've got for this awesome platform.
I agree. I mean, what I love a lot about these last few months and couple of years is we've gotten a chance to meet people that we probably never would have been able to meet.
Yeah.
I knew who you were from LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And then we talked on Clubhouse.
Yeah.
I see each other. I think this is such a great way to start engaging with people. And I really, really appreciate you taking the time today.
It's awesome. Well, I'm very happy to be here. And one thing I do love about the kind of the advanced user LinkedIn community, the people who are either actual LinkedIn trainers, or maybe they're just extreme LinkedIn enthusiasts, is that people are willing to share their knowledge. That there are groups and private chats and public chats where nothing's secret. If I find some data, I'm going to share it. Right. If someone has said, hey, I've just spotted a bug, or they've just published a new help page, and they're saying this. There's none of this kind of like, don't tell anyone, keep it to myself, because hey, maybe I can get an advantage. There's none of that competition going around. People are just so willing to share, and I really love that. So meeting so many of those people through Clubhouse has been great. Having these LinkedIn lives is wonderful, and exchanging DMs and commenting on people's posts, it's fab, because everyone's very open. Whereas in some industries, I can think of a couple of industries that I serve where people are really secretive and no, we can't post this because maybe our competitors will find out. And there's just none of that here, and I think that's great.
We all make each other better. That's how
absolutely.
And then we all have our different things. I mean, and I think the word is collaboration. I don't know if that was a word that Brenda first turned me on to. We all make each other better. We all know we all have competition, but we're all in this to make each one better, because everyone asks a question, and whether it's you or me or Brenda or someone else, we're all willing to help.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just a great set of brand values to show off, isn't it? Everyone learns, everyone improves, and there's enough to go around as well, because there's a lot of people on LinkedIn. A lot of them need some help, so we're there to serve them.
And I would recommend, you have your Shout Out Friday, which you do every Friday. There are so many wonderful people on that list. I would recommend that everyone goes to John's list and look at the people there, because there's so many people on there that I've had the pleasure of actually speaking to and actually get to know. And how do you actually come up with those lists? Is it just
Well, do you know what? I've been doing that for 3 years now, and I've got my short list of people to feature goes about 2 or 3 months into the future. Mm-hmm. So I've got loads of people. I just seem to connect with, meet lots of people. Often it's through Clubhouse. That's been a big focus this year. But just seeing posts on LinkedIn and connecting with people and having personal conversations or getting recommendations from others, I just seem to have a never-ending supply of nice people. And I only ever feature nice people who are doing good work, who want to help others, not people who are just trying to just get their numbers up and have asked to be on the list. I will never do that. So I've got lots of good people to come, and it's been a great part of my week. It's been really good fun, and it's helped me build value in my network as well.
Right, so I'm gonna again, I make the assumption people know what this list is.
Okay.
The thing, can you tell me a little bit about what that list is for the people that?
Yeah. So if you do a search for #Friday Shout, you'll see every Friday I do a post that celebrates or spotlights a good person in my network, someone doing good things. And I've been doing that since 2018. So there are like 160 plus people in that Friday Shout now. And yeah, so it's kind of a ready-made list, because every time you look at one of those posts, there's a link to the main list and you can see them all in one page. It's kind of a ready-made, like a black book, to say, if you want to go and find some nice people on LinkedIn, look here. And they've got skills in all different places. They're based all around the world. Doesn't matter if they're, men, women, black, white. It doesn't matter. They're just nice people doing good things. So go and follow them if you want a better LinkedIn experience. Because, of course, the people that you connect with and follow really determine the quality of your experience. If you connect with people who are irrelevant, who are really selfish, your feed's going to be rubbish. If you connect with nice people saying good things, trying to do good things, you'll see good stuff. So it should be in your interest to go and follow those people. So yeah, so that's the Friday Shout, and I do it every week.
Well, I want to thank you very much, John, for your time today. I want to be respectful. People have meetings at 2:00 because I always say allow 5 to 10 minutes in between a meeting so you can just decompress. But I appreciate this very much, John, because I know it's 6:30 or 7:00 where you are, right?
Yeah, it's getting for 7:00. It's time for my supper now. So yes,
okay. Well, we're not going to let you stop that. We'll be in touch again. Thanks a lot, everyone, for attending the broadcast today. Have a great day, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you, Kenneth. Cheers.
Bye.